14 years. 14 years after Tennis for Two, September 1972. The first home game console is available for sale, the Magnavox Odyssey. For $99.95 or $734 with 14 cents, accounting for inflation, in the United States. Imagine purchasing the Magnavox Odyssey, taking it home, connecting it to your television, and turning it on. All you would see is a few bright pixels, with 2 pixels being controllable. For the Magnavox's controller was a small box with 2 knobs on the side and a large reset button. A closer look, the knobs are labeled for horizontal and vertical movement, while the reset button is self-explanatory, along with a few supporting pixels, showed the maximum graphical power of the Magnavox. Despite that huge limitation, the console created 12 numbered game cartridges that changed how the pixels behaved, able to create 28 games with their help. In the commercial for the Magnavox Odyssey, we see how the console was supposed to be used. Insert a game cartridge, place a plastic overlay, get the controller, and the game is ready to play. Along with an interesting way to refer to the console. Released before the term video game had a definition, it was referred to as
the electronic game of the future
and
the closed-circuit electronic playground.
An interesting way to call an old game console. The limitation of only handling a few pixels was circumvented by having plastic overlays placed on top of any TV screen, as long as it was 18 to 25 inches in size. The pixels shine through to give life to the plastic. As stated, 12 cartridges were made to change how the pixels behaved, and 28 games, or plastic overlays in this case, were designed throughout the console's lifespan. In the commercial, it is stated the Magnavox was able to play hockey and 11 other games.
Odyssey gives you all the exciting action of hockey and 11 other challenging play and learning games.
A total of 12 games at launch. Table Tennis, cartridge 1 with no overlay. A 2-player game similar to Tennis for Two, where both players control a paddle at the edge of the screen to move around the square ball. A point is awarded when touching the edge of a screen. Scores are expected to be recorded by the players. Ski, cartridge 2 with the overlay of a ski resort, is a single-player game where a pixel represents a skier going down a set path, traveling down a designated point. Time, points, and penalties are expected to be recorded by the players using timers and personal rules. Simon Says, cartridge 2 with the overlay of 2 children with a dog and a cat. A 2 to 3 player game. Players with the controller wait inside a black square, while the remaining player draws a card from a deck, included with the consoles, to determine what part of the body the other 2 race to hover over first. Tennis, cartridge 3 with the overlay of a tennis court. A 2-player game where players knock a square ball back and forth, similar to table tennis, but expected to follow the scoring rules of tennis. Analogic, cartridge 3 with the overlay of many numbered tiles. A race where moving to a tile is restricted based on if it's even or odd, the sum of the current tile with the other player's tile, and a number decided on beforehand. Hockey, cartridge 3 with the overlay of a hockey rink. A 2-player game acting similar to table tennis and tennis where the rules are closer to hockey. Hit the ball into the opposing goal to score. Both players have to keep track of their own score. Football, cartridge 3 and 4 with the overlay of an American football field. A 2-player game that requires the use of a set of dice, a set of cards included with the console, and either using cartridge 3 to simulate a punt or cartridge 4 to simulate a run. Expected to follow the rules of American football, and both players have to keep track of their own score. Cat and Mouse, cartridge 4 with the overlay of a maze and a cat and a mouse. A 2-player game. One player acts as the mouse avoiding the cat to reach a tile that's set as their home. The second player acts as the cat trying to catch the mouse before reaching their home. Blue tiles are walls that require the player to reset to their starting point if they enter. The game is disabled as soon as both tiles overlap with each other. Haunted House, cartridge 4 with the overlay of a haunted house. A 2-player game where one player is a detective trying to find clues based on instructions from a deck of cards, included with the console. The game starts with the second player hiding their pixel around the haunted house, acting as a ghost waiting to ambush the detective, while the detective, who was supposed to look away from the screen, follows the instructions given by a drawn card. Players keep score based on the number of cards they have successfully done, losing half if they touch the ghost. Whoever has the most cards wins. Submarine, cartridge 5, with the overlay of multiple submarines. is a two-player game. One player is a submarine trying to reach the end, while the second player acts as a torpedo to attack and stop player 1's submarine. Roulette, cartridge 6, with the overlay of a roulette wheel, a game for any number of players. Following the rules of roulette, using a plastic betting table included with the console to make a bet on which number and color the pixel lands on. One player offers another player the controller in a random orientation and, while their eyes are closed, randomly moves the pixel on screen until they stop. Where they land determines the winning number and color. If the pixel lands outside the wheel, the play has to be redone. And States, cartridge 6, with the overlay of a map of the United States. A game for 2 or more players. Drawing a card from a deck of 50 trivia cards, again included with the console, about each US state and using that hint to guess which state it is by hovering over it. The first to collect a certain number of cards wins. These 12 games represent the starting library of the Magnavox, and compared to modern gaming in hindsight, it is very terrible. But as a start to gaming, it was received quite well. The Magnavox Odyssey was available for a little under 3 years, discontinuing in 1975, selling an impressive 350,000 units. Despite its impressive start, the legacy of the Magnavox is mostly an old relic forgotten to time, likely based on how the Magnavox was designed. Starting with the plastic overlays, they were supposed to stick to any television of the right size. Having a TV too small or too large would make the console useless, followed by the adhesive that would eventually wear out and be unable to stay put for gameplay. And not to mention the accessories. Out of the 12 games, 5 needed a set of dice or a specific deck of cards to play it properly. Adding extra barriers when including the fact that the number game cartridges and the plastic overlays had to match, implying the fact that the games likely had an instruction manual needed to understand the rules, creating a mess when trying to get everything in order. And that's with trying to properly use the console. New technology often meets curious people, with all the excitement to use it as soon as possible, even if it means improperly handling it. So many things need to be done that even when everything is in order, it is possible to miss something small, such as sticking the wrong overlay, adding the wrong game cartridges, ignoring or forgetting the rules, or forgetting that you need a deck of cards. Regardless, the fact stands that the Magnavox Odyssey is not remembered. Returning to its life cycle, September 1972 to 1975 is the lifespan of the first Magnavox, but not the Odyssey consoles. In a short time frame, over 13 sister consoles were created. Rather quickly, they were the Magnavox Odyssey 100, first available on October 30th, 1975. Magnavox Odyssey 200, November 12, 1975, marking the way for the Philips Odyssey 200, a console that is exactly the same as the Magnavox Odyssey 200, but released for the European audience in 1976. October 1976, Magnavox Odyssey 300, and before the end of 1976, Magnavox Odyssey 400, Magnavox Odyssey 500, and the Magnavox Odyssey 4305. Early 1977, Magnavox Odyssey 2000, and in Europe the same year, the Philips Odyssey 2000, also exactly the same as the United States counterpart. Still in 1977, the Magnavox Odyssey 3000, and the last Magnavox, the Magnavox Odyssey 4000, released before the end of 1977. And the last of the Odysseys were released in Europe, the Philips Odyssey 2001 in 1977, using the design of the Magnavox 4000. And the last Odyssey, the Philips Odyssey 2100, an upgraded version of the 2001, released in 1978. An incredible 14 consoles in total, all with the same weaknesses of limited graphical powers, dependency on plastic overlays, and the extra accessories required for play. The aggressive release schedule can be attributed to how gaming was new and followed the examples of other technologies. Televisions, phones, and computers are all made of smaller parts working together to make a larger working device. Upgrades are released at different times, being larger screens, better battery, or better storage. selling a TV with the same parts but a larger screen, a phone with the same specs but a better battery, or a computer that does the same work but it stores more. It made sense at the time. Create a new console to add more games, not make more games for the same console to use. Adding to the profit motive, the parent company, the Sanders Association Incorporated, held patent US 3728480A, in English known as the Television Gaming and Training Apparatus. Patents legally give the owner rights over a respective creation, giving them the legal authority to stop anyone from creating and selling a device that too closely resembles their invention, often going to court and receiving a cash settlement for any violations of the patent. The name alone explains the details of the patent quite well. A device that depends on a television to use for entertainment or training reasons. It was granted to the Sanders Association on March 22, 1971, until it expired on April 17, 1990, an action that forever changed early gaming.